Good morning, good morning, good morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I am so excited to be here with you today. We have an amazing show. We have amazing guests. We're going to learn, we're going to laugh, we're going to have some fun. But before I go ahead and introduce today's guest, I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do. And I ask you this every day, Monday through Friday, to go out and be an evangelist for the Roundtable Talk Show. There's someone within your network, there's someone within your house, there's someone within your neighborhood. I don't know, the man across the street walking his dog, he needs to be watching the Roundtable Talk Show. Maybe he's an entrepreneur, maybe he's a business owner, maybe he just needs to improve his life. But that's what we do here on the Roundtable Talk Show. And your network, your friends, your spouse won't know how to improve their life unless you share it with them. So again, go out and be an evangelist and share the show. So while you're sharing the show with your network, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest. And our very first guest is Dr. Anne Arvizu. Dr. Anne is a business advisor, entrepreneur, author, podcaster, leadership expert, keynote, and former Fortune 500 global executive. She is the founder and CEO of RXER Communications Corp and Core Centrance Inc. RXER is a top consulting firm specializing in designing and optimizing medical affairs operations, driving cultural transformation, and targeting leadership development within the healthcare sector. Good morning, Dr. Anne. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. It's an honor and pleasure to be here.
It's an honor and a pleasure to have you. I'm so excited. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Anne.
I have been in the pharmaceutical industry for 23 years, and I am very, very excited to, I launched my own company back in 2002 originally with the idea of bringing drug information to the right patient, the right drug to the right patient at the right time. And creating that company has been able, I've been able to 10x what any type of uh, earning potential that I had in the industry. And that's a lot, right? Because I was a global leader in that industry. I led large global pharmaceutical teams, medical affairs, different functions, such as medical information, medical communications. These are the functions in medical affairs in the pharmaceutical industry that keep our companies compliant. And we all need that, right? We need that industry to create compliance. But over the past, I would say, 8 to 10 years, and specifically 11 years ago, it was my turn to be part of the burnout of that industry and to experience it, the debilitating effects of moving across the country. I had a team across the globe in 4 regions that I built from scratch to 36 employees and 58 contractors. And I was always on a plane. I was exhausted most of the time. And my core method that I developed really is for corporate executives to stop these effects of burnout. Because when you have a disconnect of what's going on in your core, right, your true core values, they're not matching up with the values that you are experiencing in a major large corporation, you're going to eventually feel the effects of burnout. You're eventually going to have mental health and physical health, spiritual, emotional breakdown. So what I'm doing now is launching Corpreneur Academy and Corpreneur University for corporate leaders, right? So Corpreneur, my podcast, you drop the P of corp, the pain. That's what the P represents for me. And you add the E. So CORE is a trademarked acronym. It means centered, open, resilient, and energized. And a lot of people last year, especially with the pandemic, they would talk about being resilient, but nobody teaches you how. Nobody teaches you how to actually engage your core and make sure that your core values, your personal core values, really are not being dummied down or stuffed down, because we all just ignore the warning signs for a long, long time. I mean, you've probably heard people's stories where they say, I'm going to keep working till they wheel me into the ER. Probably you guys are, the people on this call are usually type A's. They're driven. People who are entrepreneurs or visionary. They see something. They see a way to make things better, but they can get up and caught up in that same spin themselves, even as an entrepreneur. And I've done that in my own company, in big companies. And now I take C-suite and VP level leaders and I help them out of that. So people contact me and they say, how can I quit my day job? And I say, go to my website, annearvizu.com, and you can download the Corporate to Freedom checklist. It's for free, and it walks you through really the 10-step process that I did to that 4X and then 10X my salary. So hitting over 7 figures within 4 months was a huge accomplishment to me. And also saying, wow, I don't need this industry. It doesn't define me. I don't need this job anymore, which job, you probably heard, just over broke, right? We're just spinning our wheels in a job. And so many people like me, PharmDs, brilliant MDs, PharmDs, PhDs, right? We have a chiropractor here on the call as well. People are saying, if I work for someone else, I'm not truly stepping into my full potential, or I'm not stepping into my scientific genius, or really advocating for health, community health, and my own personal health, right? Because you have to be that leader that others want to follow.
I think that is powerful. And just like you mentioned, I'm going to come back to you, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, who you mentioned, Dr. Brook Sheehan. Dr. Brook is a doctor of chiropractic at Cardiff Health and Wellness and co-founder of Cup of Sugar, a mobile app tailored around reducing food waste at the household level by connecting individuals to their nearby neighbors. Learning that connection is the source of everything we are as individuals, Dr. Brook has been able to connect others back to the innate intelligence within them through chiropractic and externally through the power of connection to our local communities with Cup of Sugar. Good morning, Dr. Brook. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
You are so welcome. Did much of what Dr. Ann said resonate with you?
A lot of what she said resonated with me. I was shaking my head like, yes, go girl. So for me personally, my heart and who I work with patient-wise in the office is a lot of entrepreneurs. So it's interesting that you talk about, entrepreneurs and small businesses being a lot of the viewership. They are the ones that are really chasing legacy, and they're wanting to make massive impact in the world and create a lot of value. And while they're in this pursuit and in this lane doing this, they fail to take care of themselves physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And that is where I focus a lot of my attention, is helping them really work on strengthening those other pillars of their lives, right? Because they're financially driven towards that pillar, the financial aspect and the impact and all of that. But what happens is because there's so much in that lane and not in the other lanes, they tend to, I hate sharing this story because it's so sad, and whether you like him or not, Steve Jobs, Steve Jobs, because he was so driven and building his companies and doing what he did, he didn't heed a lot of the whispers that his body was giving him. See, one of the things I tell my patients a lot is our bodies whisper to us before it starts screaming. And pancreatic cancer for Steve Jobs was that scream. And there were whispers many, many, many years prior to all of that happening, that had he listened or had he known the tools to learn to tune into that, he might still be here and making a greater impact with Apple and doing other, ventures and stuff. So with that being said, I'm helping entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur myself, I know firsthand what it's like to not sleep really well, to just kind of burn, you're kind of going to bed like super late at night and waking up really early in the morning and just taking care of all these fires and doing all these things that your health literally becomes secondary. And I know the mindset of an entrepreneur is, I don't got time to be in the gym for 3 hours. I don't have time to sit there and meal prep for, 5 hours a day for the entire week and do all of these things. So I help them in, ways to to be able to incorporate all of that into their lives without feeling like it's taking away from their life's work, because that's where their attention is. And that's where I want their attention to be. But if they're given the tools and the know-how to do all of these things, they can make those big impacts. And so, like Dr. Anne was saying, I also have something on my website. It's a downloadable free guide that, is what I believe the 5 hidden keys to being able to unlock your greatest health potential. And that is things that you can do at home without having to come see me as the doctor. I do provide consultations and do, lab report reviews from a functional medicine standpoint for, patients. I can do them virtually, but, things like helping them regain the energy and focus that they had on day one when they started their business. Dr. Anne talked about burnout. Like, people experience burnout a lot sooner than they may have experienced it before, many years before. And so now, we have so many things coming at us, and, burnout happens. And so, as just to briefly cover, Cup of Sugar, yes, is a mobile app that, I founded with my best friend as a, solution to kitchen time frustrations. Many family members, are working and come home for dinner, kids are all around, and they're like, gosh, I'm missing X, Y, and Z ingredient. And to be able to jump on the platform and kind of bring back the idea of borrowing a cup of sugar from your neighbor and really having that community connection, it allows people to just really engage and connect over food, because the truth is food is the master connector. And so between, chiropractic and cup of sugar, like, I keep myself pretty busy.
I can tell. Very interesting. I have about 50 million questions for you, Dr. Brooks, but I'm not going to start with the questions just yet. I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Mr. Lee Jay Berman. Lee Jay began as a full-time mediator 26 years ago and has successfully mediated over 2,500 matters. He specializes in working on business and partnership disputes, both in and out of litigation, with an emphasis on family-owned and closely held businesses, real estate development and construction, and in the entertainment business, where he has been called the band whisperer for keeping successful performing acts together and working smoothly as a high-performing cohesive unit. We got a lot of whispering going on today. Good morning, Lee Jay. Thank you for joining us. How are you? Okay, we got to get Lee Jay off of mute. Good morning, Lee Jay. Thank you.
Good morning, Sharif. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Are you a sports fan?
A little bit, yes. Actually, this is an homage to my dad. He played basketball, and these are autographed balls from NBA championship teams where friends of his coached and things like that.
Wow, that is so cool. I love it. So we got a lot of whispering going on today's show. So you whisper to help people to get out of some of the conflicts that they have. How do you do that?
Oh, I used to think that I did this because I was comfortable in conflict. From the time I was a kid, I would step in the middle of conflict and sort of sort it out. And I thought I could do this eventually for a living once I learned that there was such a thing. But I learned a couple of years in, it's interesting hearing Dr. Anne and Dr. Brook both talk about burnout. For me, I realized it's just not that I'm comfortable with it. I actually really hate conflict. But what I am is I'm good at helping make it go away. I'm good at helping people understand each other, helping to find win-win solutions and figure out ways that meet everybody's interests and make everybody sort of less triggered and less angry, and de-escalate folks and give them a chance just to work through the problem. And it's funny, as you were talking about an integrated, I'm listening to this group thinking, we could team here because we've got all the components.
But that's interesting. I wanted to ask you, in your bio where you mentioned, now I drew a blank, sorry about that, but mediation, right? You mentioned the part I was looking for is family-owned businesses. Like most people say you should not do business with family because you take in a lot of the emotions and the dynamics of the family. So it's not easy to have, maybe a mother-daughter business, spouse business, because there's so many other dynamics, that play into it. Would you say?
It's true, Sharifa. It's good and bad, right? On one hand, you know the family members. You almost have a shorthand when it comes to communicating because you know each other really well. You know their strengths and weaknesses, and you have that bond that makes you family. But then there are all the other pieces that come with it, the sibling rivalries and things like that. And a lot of my work is actually where you have a founder, a matriarch, a patriarch who started a business. The kids run it really well, but then the third generation, they're the ones who are all cousins with each other. They don't quite have the same connection as brothers and sisters can. And you see greed and you see jealousy and you see a lot of that sort of thing. And so they're rife with a lot of conflict in the middle of a very successful business. So I love that kind of work. And, you know, the similar piece is the whispering piece you alluded to, the rock bands. When you've got, you know, 4 people in their 30s who've been playing together for 15 years, they become like siblings with each other. And, you know, of course, they're on stage and they're signing autographs and they're selling millions of records and all that sort of thing. And so there's ego and pride involved, and everybody feels like their contribution should be valued so much more than it is, and things like that. So to me, it's fun to work with groups that are having that trouble and help them sort it out and understand each other better.
But how do you do that? How do you, it's just like, when I'm seeing this, it's like being a kid on the playground. Like this side is arguing, this side is arguing. And then we have Lee J who steps in the middle and says, okay, calm down, let's talk this out. Do you have a special technique or a strategy that you use to mediate?
Absolutely. You know, the first, as you talk about the kids on the playground, the first and the simplest is to actually hear each other's stories. When somebody says, I asked the rock band, what about this is so important to you that you get up on a Tuesday morning and go do the band thing in the rehearsal studio or whatever, rather than going to the beach with your kids that day? And one of them says, because I love our music and I love playing it. I love creating it together. And I think there's a special something about our music. And another one says, I love the crowds when they go crazy and all of that. The third says, I think we actually have a chance to be one of the great bands of all time. And I think it would be awful if we broke up and never got the chance to see if we could get there. Mm-hmm. And the fourth one says money. And everyone laughs and says, of course he would say that. And he says, no, I've got like 10 more years of doing this, because before long, I'm going to be sort of a short, bald guy and no one's going to pay to see that on stage. I've got an earning window to put my kids through college. And this is important to me for that reason. And so, you know, having them all hear that from each other repersonalizes it for them and makes them realize that for them to get what they want, all the others have to get what they want too. And that recreates really the interdependence that they kind of lost when they were each focused on their own needs or what was fair and not fair.
Now, since you're a mediator, it kind of reminds me of like the whole divorce court idea. And usually when people go through marriage counseling, that kind of thing, the couple themselves may not be the ones to go for help. Who typically calls you in? Is it like the manager or the owner that says, look, my employees are squabbling, we have to fix this out? Who reaches out to you?
It's every one of those things, Sharifa. It's somebody from HR. It's the president of the company who says, I've got 2 division presidents underneath me. You know, the CEO will say, I've got 2 division presidents and they won't talk to each other and I need them to talk to each other. Or it's the band's manager, or a lot of times, you heard mentioned in the bio of litigation, a lot of times it's the lawyers. We've got people who are lawyered up and they're in litigation or they're about to go into litigation, and good lawyers will say, wait a minute, let's first try to have a conversation and see if we can sort this out before we go, you know, hog wild crazy with depositions and discovery and all the things that entails.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I find this very interesting and very intriguing, mainly because I spend a lot of time talking to people, but I'm a consultant. And I always say I'm not a coach. I am a consultant, and that's because I don't like doing weekly meetings. I don't like to hear your problems every week. I want to give you a solution, go fix it, come back to me when you're ready. I mean, because we were talking with Dr. Anne and Dr. Brook about burnout, like listening to people's problems, like kids fighting all day. You ever feel like you're going through burnout?
You know, it's funny. If we're doing it right, it's not about us. The mediator's mantra, one of my early teachers said, is it's their stuff. It's their stuff. And if I can stay out of it, I care and I have a lot of empathy and I'm deeply involved with all of them. But at the end of the day, it's their fight. It's not mine. And so it's really different being in the middle of somebody else's conflict rather than being in your own. Because in our own, we get triggered and everything else. And it's easier to stay removed if you're just there to sort of be of service and help.
Powerful. I'm going to come back to you, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest, Miss Brenda Kuhn. Brenda is a greeting card designer who specializes in working with people to help them express individualized sentiments. She utilizes her unique skills in pairing the perfect image with words that convey the sender's sincere thoughts. Brenda has had a passion for card making over a number of years. Good morning, Brenda. How are you?
Good morning, Sharifa. Thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome. I love your tiara.
Thank you so much. I always say I'm Miss Craft Princess, and a princess always rocks her tiara.
That is so sweet. I had to be a princess today. I had to join you in this whole princess vibe. I had to put my tiara on. Wow.
I appreciate that.
Greeting cards in 2021. I just want to know, like, I want to talk about the journey, but to me, it's like, how do you make individualized greeting cards these days?
Well, it's actually pretty simple to me. I meet with my customers, chat with them, and get the feel for what they want. What I'm getting requests for a lot now, especially last year with the pandemic, are encouragement cards. You know, people are hurting, they're disconnected, and greeting cards are a great way to bridge the gap between people and connect them. And so, you know, they'll tell me, you know, I've got a girlfriend and I haven't seen her in so long, and they'll just kind of give me their story. And as they're talking to me, then I'm picturing in my head, you know, an image that I want to use, and the words that I want to use. But most of the cards that I make, even the ones that are on my website, while they may have a verse in them or a sentiment in them, as a purchaser, you have the option to personalize it, because as you mentioned, my tagline is giving a handcrafted greeting card is like giving a hug. And if you're using my words, then it's my hug, right? It's not your favorite hug. So I think that's so important. And that's something you don't get when you go to a big box store to buy a card. You know, you're just picking up with what everybody else is giving. And people just want something more. They want that connection. And it's just something about the receiver. I mean, you go to the store, you're not going to find a card that says happy birthday, Sharifa, you know? But it's something about getting that. I always say, you know, we go to our mailbox and you have bills, or you have, I don't like to say junk mail, I'll say solicitations. And you go through all of that, and then tucked inside of there is an envelope with handwriting on it. And it just does something to you, you know, because what that says is somebody cares, you know, no matter what you're going through, somebody out there thought enough to send you a card. And then when it's handcrafted, it's just that much more important. I have been a paper crafter since the 1990s, but I've only, this has been a business since September 2019. I had a career. I had a 31-year career, which was completely separate from this, but greeting cards were something I made for family and friends. I also do scrapbooks. When my husband and I travel, I'd come home and I'd put the books together, and so that we can just have something to kind of chronicle our journey. So I had a wonderful 31-year career, something totally different than what I'm doing now. And I did cards on the side. And when I retired, this was not what I planned to do. We were going to travel, and we did do a little traveling, but I was trying to do something else. I was trying to get on a design team for a stamp manufacturer. And they said, you need a social media presence. And I was never on Facebook. I was never on Instagram. And so here I am at 53 at the time, having to get on social media. So I did that. And by posting my work, people started reaching out and saying, do you sell this? How much is this? I really like this. And so, you know, at first I was, oh, thank you so much for your kind comments, but I don't sell my work. But I kept getting that. And so, you know, my husband and I just kind of stepped back and went, I wonder if this is my purpose for this season in my life. And so I, you know, had to be very prayerful about it. I had everything I needed because I made cards. That's what I did. So just, you know, prayed about it and then launched Miss Craft Princess Designs in September of 2019. And it's just been, you know, it's been so wonderful. This is not what I thought my retirement years would look like, but I'm so blessed because I've been able to work with a lot of amazing people, meet a lot of amazing people. But to Dr. Brooks' point, last year, I did get burned out at the end of the year because there are a lot of late nights and early mornings because the business took off more than I expected it to in a very short window. And so, you know, I don't come from a long line of entrepreneurs. So having to learn how to do that has been, you know, a bit of a challenge, but I'm a lifelong learner. So I'm learning to navigate that. I do work with a business coach and learning to take better care of myself, realizing that I don't have to be up till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning every morning. I can't consistently do that and be healthy. And so when Dr. Brooks said, you know, your body whispers, yes, it does. And learning to listen to those whispers. So
Yes.
I'm just, you know, I'm having a ball.
I can tell you're a princess. Princess always have a ball.
Oh,
But
yes.
it's good that you mentioned that, because I want to go back over to Dr. Brooke real quick and what you were saying, because we're all talking about burnout. We're talking about whispering. We're talking about our bodies. And one of the things that I believe is that entrepreneurs don't make that step from entrepreneurship to business owner. And I think part of that is just a mindset. Like for me, I operate my business Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And I'm off on weekends. And I'm clear. If people call me for anything over the weekend, it's a weekend. My office is closed. I don't do the 20 hours anymore. You know, I think we should go through stages and build employees and stop thinking of us as an entrepreneur mindset, or also a solopreneur, where you get this. I think Lee J is probably more familiar with this. It's like these mom and pop shops that don't expand. They'll just be mom and pop forever. So, Dr. Brooke, your thoughts?
Absolutely. So to go back to what you said in terms of people not making the transition from, you know, solopreneur to like, I guess the way that I look at it is a lot of people end up in the self-employment game, and really they own their job. They're not a business owner. Business owners have systems in place. That's what like true entrepreneurship in my definition is they have the business systems in place that if they decide to take a two-week vacation, that the business is still running and moving. So mom and pop shops, you know, those people have pigeonholed themselves into being stuck to, you know, ball and chain, unfortunately, to that office or to that restaurant or whatever. And they're the ones that are going to experience burnout a lot quicker. They're the ones that are going to end up with all of the health, you know, issues, you know, down the line. Not to say that entrepreneurs are without health issues, you know, even the ones that have the big business systems in place, you know, because they too are just kind of in that dedication mode. So So yeah, I mean, my thoughts are that, you people do need to make that transition and have what I call and what I teach are these bookends to your day. And I love what you just said about, your hours are 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, and that is it. You've bookend your day or bookends your day like in the morning and in the evening. And so when we allow ourselves to have these where we have our morning routines, we always in the business space, especially, you hear about these millionaire mornings and, got to do all these things. And 3 hours in, you're finally ready to start your day. You've done your meditation, you've done your, 10-hour workout, you've done all these crazy, hoops and all this stuff. And the reality is people get so overwhelmed with that they don't do anything. So if you stick to, hey, I'm going to wake up 30 minutes before my day actually, or whenever your day, 30 minutes to spend time with yourself. So that could be morning meditation, that could be journaling, that could be whatever, you see fit as a part of your routine. I believe movement should be a part of that. It doesn't have to be some crazy, gym time, but it should be movement enough to get your heart beating, your joints lubricated, to just kind of get like circulation flowing through your body. You've been still all night. But the latter part of that, and something that we don't hear a lot about, is having evening wind down periods. So if you say, your day is done at 6 and you want to be in bed by 10, start that evening wind down period at 9 p.m. And that's, like not doing a whole lot of blue light, computers, phones, TVs, all of that. If you do use blue light blocking glasses, I have some right here. I should have them on because I'm on the computer, but those kind of things, like having those things to kind of protect your eyes, to help with melatonin production. Because the reality is a lot of this blue light is really throwing off circadian rhythms. And that's why people have a lot of trouble getting to sleep, staying asleep, all of that. I mean, there's a whole slew I can go through sleep hacks like no other, because sleep is so important. But, just establishing the bookends of your day, I really think can help reset and shift the mindset between being a slave to your job or your business, and actually becoming that true entrepreneur that, has
I
those.
agree. I agree. But I also think the entrepreneurship is like a mentality. Like they feel like entrepreneurs have to go 24 hours, 7 days a week, or you're not focused on your business. And one of the things that I always say is if you are in business, you should not spend your day putting out fires. You should put out an occasional fire. There should be one fire every now and then. But if all day, every day, all you do is put out fires, that means you don't have processes in place to run your business. I see you nodding, Lee J. What are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. Stephen Covey did a great thing years ago about what's urgent and what's important and trying to prioritize those things. And it's very true. I had a question for Dr. Brook, though. Are you spelling that wind down W-I-N-E? Is that how that works?
Yes.
Good one. And no, it's WINDDON.
Okay, I'm doing it wrong.
Okay, well, I'm doing it wrong too. I'm wrong with you. Dr. Anne, are you winding down?
I actually do wind down, and I just couldn't agree more with what you guys are saying so far. My gosh. So last year I wrote a book called Affluent Minds, and you mentioned mindset, Sharifa, and it's your mindset. Everybody focuses on their skill set, which is where process comes in. And that's great for business. You have to put the processes in place. You have to build the strong foundation for the business. And you have to know how to, like Dr. Brook said, set those boundaries, right? And know those boundaries, know that I don't go on Saturdays. I mean, I have a lot of people on my team and they're reaching out to me on Saturdays and Sundays. And I'm like, no, we don't work. Even if they're a contractor or a supplier or a vendor, no, we don't work Saturday or Sunday, right? And that's okay not to do, unless of course it's a conference and I'm speaking or something like that. But these are the exceptions to the rules. So, years ago, there used to be a diet program, right? Probably many of you would know what it was, but I won't mention the name, but they used to say on most days. So if you do this on most days, you're going to be successful. And then there's the, okay, I'm going to go out for nachos at my favorite Mexican restaurant. And
Right.
but I'm still going to be successful in my weight loss efforts. And the same thing applies to business as a great analogy. As long as you, keep tracking and keep moving on, and then see what is not resonating in your core. What do you not want to do? And those are things like Brenda was basically doing it all from morning till night, and then cut back and say, you know what, like that's when staff comes in, and then you can train, you put those systems in place. It takes a while, but it can be done.
Yes, absolutely. Brenda, what do you do to wind down?
I drink wine. And
You over here with Lee J and I, then I see.
yes. And I'm married.
Mhm.
So I realized that I needed to change some things that I was doing because, my husband's retired, I'm retired, while he is, retired from that job and now Miss Craft Princess. And while he is supporting Miss Craft Princess, I needed to remember that, I need to spend time with him. I mean, I have a life outside of Miss Craft Princess Designs. And so thankfully, I just celebrated a year, September of last year. So I'm very new in this, but thankfully, I realized that pretty quickly that I had to change some things because not only was I getting burned out, but, he was sitting there not saying anything, but feeling like, when do I, when is my time? And I work here, my craft studio is here in our home. And so, I was here, I was physically here, but I was not there for him. And so, so that's just been something that, I've been like really intentional about. I think that my biggest concern, my issue was, even though when you go to my website and it tells you if you order a custom card, allow 3 to 5 days, my thing was, if you ordered it, like I'd be sitting there watching TV. And if the order came in, and Lee J's laughing, but really, if the order came in, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I need to go get this card done and get it in the mail tomorrow. Okay, because I want to exceed their expectations. And, that's beautiful, but that was killing me. And so at the end of last year, the last 2 weeks of December, I literally walked into the studio and could do nothing. I could create nothing. And I would walk out and close the door. And I said to my husband, I can't create. He said, you're Miss Craft Princess. You have to create. But I had just burned myself out.
Oh, wow. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Brenda. I mean, that's something I think a lot of people in our audience can relate to. And I think that what happens is it's like the old adage about heating a frog. You put the frog in the water and you turn up the and the frog doesn't realize that it's boiled until it's too late. And so burnout is one of those things that affects us that way. We don't realize we're burning out until we actually burned out. So that was a prime example, would you say, Dr. Ann, of just burning out?
Absolutely. I mean, it is just so, Brenda, you just said it right. We want to exceed expectations. We want to do more, right? And especially the type A's of the world, right? It's like life is already going too much too fast all the time. Then throw some wrenches in the works like a pandemic, right? We've already had the burnout culture of go, 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 do, especially in corporations, which is why people are leaving, especially women, right? I'm also in my 50s and people are leaving their corporations like never before. I have people who are like VPs going, I feel like a grasshopper jumping from meeting to meeting. I feel like I can't it's Monday. I can't even do Monday. And they're quitting on a dime without even like a safety net, just to say, that's my only way out of this feeling right now. And yeah, just to your point, Sharifa, like that's exactly what happens, is that I'm finally there. I'm finally like, the chest pain is the palpitations are too much. My cholesterol is high. I'm overweight, or all these out of balance in your physical life, your mental life. You're sad, you're depressed, you're over medicating this way at 5 p.m. You're winding down instead of winding down, right? Instead of going for a jog or getting on your, spin bike, you're doing something. And people started that in the beginning of the pandemic. If you remember, everybody was out walking, everybody was smiling. And then what happened through summer? And then what happened through fall? People all fell off those wagons. So we need to be very mindful of, skill set. Yeah, that's great. Mindset. Yes, that's great too. But your value set. Do I value myself enough to say that what I can give to the world matters, so that I need to take care of myself first?
Yes, I agree. And also, one of the things that I like to keep in mind, and you mentioned it, Brenda, as far as you allow 3 to 5 days, but then you wanted to get it out immediately. One of the things that I do, and I do this quite often, is people will email me, and I've always responded immediately. So about 6 months ago, I took my work emails off of my cell phone. So now, in order for me to answer a work email, I have to go to work, which means I have to go to my laptop to see those emails. And for a lot of people, it took a minute, because they're used to immediate, instant gratification in their response. And I had to set some boundaries and say, you know what, just like any company that you email, you should allow at least 24 hours. I'll respond to you within 24 hours on a business day. But until I set boundaries, people wanted instant gratification. DJ, I see you nodding away over there.
Oh yeah, you're singing my song, Sharifa. So I founded a training institute 11 years ago to teach people how to resolve conflict and how to negotiate better and all of that. And we've got the downloadable videos and things. And the way we're set up is we have to manually process each order right now. And so I'm exactly in the same place that you and Brenda are, where I would get the email. Now, I've got a staff now who does that, and thank goodness. But same thing, we get an email by 9 in the morning, and our website says allow 3 to 4 days or something like that. But we're getting it out to them in a couple of hours. And I made the decision that wasn't something I was going to do at 11 o'clock at night. Because I'm doing other things at 11 o'clock at night.
Like sleeping.
But at the same time, I love the idea of exceeding their expectations and delivering more than we've promised. So to me, we just had to find a happy medium there. And in our case, one of those things for us was we put together a YouTube channel and gave a lot of free content away so that people could at least go there and download some videos and learn some things while we were getting them the course that they purchased or whatever. So we found workarounds.
Yes, there are definitely workarounds. Dr. Brooke?
I just wanted to add on to what Brenda and Lee J were saying. So, Brenda was mentioning about how she gets the card out a lot sooner. The order comes through and she's like wanting to put it together to, really kind of overvalue that, or over deliver. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for, on that person's, request. But then what ends up happening over the long term, if you continue to keep doing that, and like what you were saying in terms of like shutting your work email off, at a certain time and having to go to the office, is that they begin to expect that. So the order form may say, turnaround time within 36 hours or 3 to 4 days. And they're like, oh no, because I ordered from her last time and it came the next day. And so I know that I have grandma's 70th birthday party tomorrow. I better have that card in the mail, or that card better be here tomorrow. And so when it doesn't show up, guess who looks bad? Brenda looks bad, And so even just having those things in place, like, hey, if you want rush delivery on this, I'll make this card for you in 24 hours, but you're going to pay a premium price for it. So just kind of adding on to that, just kind of allowing yourself to have that, like those boundaries, boundaries are important.
Yes, absolutely. Brenda, you got a lot of feedback. Has any of this helped you as far as some of the changes you can incorporate into your business?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, I have stopped doing that. Now, if we're sitting there and like I hear that little ping, and then I look and I'll go, oh, okay. So we've got this many cards for tomorrow. And then I put the phone aside, because I realize just what you all are saying. If I start that and then I can't keep it up, then that's going to come back on me. When I worked, and I worked in government, I had these signs all over our office that said, providing exceptional customer service is our top priority, because the area that I was in, we were serving taxpayers. And I think that in the beginning of my Miss Craft Princess journey, I probably took that to the extreme a little bit, but yes, I am setting boundaries. Sharifa, you're right. If you answer an email at 11:30 at night, then they will always email you doing odd hours, because they will expect that. And so I have stopped doing that. I'm really proud of where I've come, but I think it took getting to the point. I mean, I love what I do. I am living in my purpose. I love looking at images and saying, oh, I can see, this card or this card. I mean, being surrounded by my beautiful paper and my inks and markers.
Look at that smile.
That's my thing.
You just feel like you're just glowing, you're just smiling. And I get it though. I get it, but I take things way too far. Like for instance, this Sunday morning, I'm relaxing. It's 10 o'clock, the phone rings, and it's some survey from my hospital saying, because I went to the doctor and they want me to take this survey to see how my doctor's plan went or whatever. And I asked her, like, I said, you do realize it's Sunday morning? And she was just like, oh, would you like me to call you during the week? And I said, yes. She's like, well, what time, what day? I'm like, anytime, Monday through Friday. But see, for me, and this is why I'm so vigilant, is my phone rings nonstop. Monday through Friday. So I want that time to be able to enjoy my life, to maybe get me a husband, Brenda. One of those days, I want one of those. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to have the freedom to go and relax. And what used to happen is I would be out somewhere trying to have a date or trying to have dinner or lunch with the friends or at a birthday party, and my phone rings and it's some client who's like, well, I need your help. And I'm like, dude, like, that's going to have to wait until Monday. But I just learned to set boundaries. But I want to go over to Dr. Brook real quick. You mentioned whispering. Are there some ways that stand out to you as far as how our body whispers way before it starts screaming, as a general rule? I know that's kind of a generic question.
No, it's actually a really great question, and one that I love to answer. And I share this with a lot of people. So one of the ways that our body whispers to us is through sneezing. So right now is, it's February. It's not a typical allergy season. And sometimes we'll just start randomly sneezing, 3 or 4 in a row, and just, people say, God bless you, bless you. And we go about our day. We don't stop to think about what really is happening there. And what is really happening there physiologically is the body, the immune system is revving up. That's when it's like, okay, something's going on. We're getting all the troops ready for battle and we're going out there. So this is the prime time to step 1, avoid sugar at all costs, because sugar is going to deplete your immune system. It's going to prolong any sort of sickness down the line if you don't heed these whispers. The second thing is drink lots of water. You want to have a lot of fluid intake. To go back to step 1 really quick, avoid the sugar for a good 48 hours. That should kind of bring you through the entire setback, what I call, and get you to the other side. And 3, this is not the time to stay up all hours of the night, finishing projects that don't necessarily have a deadline at that moment in time. This is the time to get some really good, adequate rest. So when that happens, you do those 3 steps. I incorporate, and this is not for everybody, but I incorporate a 4th step, which is to eat some raw garlic before I go to bed. And raw garlic actually is really high in sulfur, a sulfur-containing amino acid called cysteine. And cysteine also makes up glutathione, which glutathione, we all have glutathione. Our bodies make glutathione. and it is the #1 antioxidant in our body. So when we take Tylenol or some over-the-counter drugs, what ends up happening is our glutathione levels get depleted. So by incorporating some garlic to kind of help glutathione and kind of help that immune system, do what it needs to do, you're able to not experience like prolonged symptoms of sickness, or even, fall victim to being sick by just doing those 3 steps. And you can incorporate the garlic if you'd like.
I like that. That was just like a list of those things your grandma says, because that was my grandma. My grandma always smelled like garlic. She was always eating garlic. So, you know what I mean? Get some sleep, drink plenty of water. And if you're sneezing, something's wrong. That was the message I received. Dr. Anne, there are entrepreneurs out there who are burnt out, especially during this COVID pandemic. What is some advice you can give to them?
I'm going to actually just piggytail right back on what Dr. Book said, because that garlic, that antiviral activity that goes on in some of these things, eating well, eating healthy, staying hydrated, and really staying true to your core. So how do you do that, right? In my book, I describe basically a method that I've created called the core method, right? How to stay centered, open, resilient, and energized, and how to recognize when it's the negative core 4, which is chaos, overwhelm, resistance, and exhaustion. The good news is these bad things and these negative forces that come against us, like resistance, actually builds resilience. So they do play off of each other. But so how do you do that? So we all look outwards, and this is the first and easiest exercise I can give you. We all look outwards towards our finances, towards the number in our bank account, towards the news flashes that are coming, fast and furious, and they're all negative, and they pull you down. They will weigh your heart down if you let them, right? And we'll look at, this negative relationship I have in my life, or this situation that's going on in my home. I mean, for us right now, it's like we have a tarp on the roof because we had a roof leak, right? And it's like, oh no, now we have to deal with insurance. Like there's always something. It always feels like, oh gosh, you better stop saying it's going to get worse, because it could get worse.
Yeah.
And we saw that last year. So stop looking outside and take like inventory right now in your mind. So go away from like the skill set, the stuff of life, the stuff that matters, and just stop. And am I thinking negatively? Is this thought real? And then let it go, right? I'm this or I'm that, especially when the negative thoughts come against you. Stop those in their tracks and then go within. What's in your core value? Right? Brenda said it really well. When she started her business, she prayed about it, right? She's in a good place because she's tuned in. Tap into what is in your core. For me, that's always been God. So what values have I learned from, say, my upbringing that I'm forgetting right now? Really, love, peace, patience, kindness. Are those things what you're giving to yourself and showing to yourself? Those are key ways to boost your immune system. There's tons of clinical data on the mindset and how there's a mind-body connection. So that would be my core advice. Go to your core to live and give more.
I love it. Go to your core to live and give more. That's a commercial. We're just going to edit that part right now and throw it up on Dr. Ann's website. Now, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience, to everyone who is watching this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives, and let them know what you want them to take away from your appearance here today. And we're going to start with you, Lee J. Just need to unmute you, but we're going to start with you.
Fantastic. I would love to coattail right onto what Dr. Brook and Dr. Anne were just saying and take it to the brain and recognize that our mindset releases different chemicals in our brain. And when I'm dealing with people who are in conflict, one of the things that I'm mindful of is what are they doing? What are they generating in their brain? And is that helping, or is it getting in the way? And so things like that. So I think we've learned a lot here today. And I want to just rave on the show, because I have so enjoyed listening to everybody else and seeing how all the pieces all fit together. So for me, speaking to the audience, I would just say keep tuning in for the next episode, because I look forward to seeing who else you have on the show. You picked some really interesting people, and I'm glad to be a part of it today.
Thank you. People want to find you, Lee J.
So it's leejberman.com. It's pretty easy. And I've got a YouTube channel that's in my name also. It's LeeJayBerman. and happy to answer people's questions if they're having difficult situations. If there's something that they, I used to have a show of my own called Talk It Over. We would help people figure out how to talk things over better, difficult conversations and the like. So feel free to reach out. That's what I'm here for.
Fantastic. Thank you. Brenda, what do you have for us?
Well, thank you so much again for having me today. And I am like really thrilled that I was on this show with these wonderful panelists, because it just reinforced what they said, reinforced to me as I call like a baby entrepreneur, since I haven't been in it very long, that I'm on the right track, that I am, handling the business. I am putting in the processes, but also making myself a priority. And it's okay to do that. So, I want others that, and also that, if I did this started this in my 50s, you're never too old, to start a business or learn. But, my tagline again is giving a handcrafted greeting card. It's like giving a hug. And I hope that whenever I, have an opportunity to chat with people, that they, you start seeing greeting cards in a different light. It's not just something you pick up, it really needs to convey to the person that you're giving it to, that you love them, that you care, that you're there for them. And I hope that's what, that's what I try to do in my work. And just, because a lot of times the greeting card is the gift, itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
where can people find you, Brenda?
I am on Instagram and Facebook. Both of them are Miss Craft Princess. That's MSCRAFT Princess. And then my website is misscraftprincessdesigns.com.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Dr. Brook, what do you have for us?
Well, thank you for allowing me to be here. Loved this panel, loved this discussion. It's been absolutely incredible. To the audience, to my fellow entrepreneurs and people out there making big impact in the world, we see you. You may not be seen or feel heard, but we're all there with you, and we're moving in the right direction together. So the one thing I'd like to leave you with is just to prioritize yourself. In the same way you prioritize the business, prioritize yourself. Make yourself important as your business and the legacy that you're building. You need to take care of yourself physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. Those are the 4 big pillars that I teach on. If you'd like to hear more about different ways the body whispers and how to unlock these, to unlock the greatest health that is within you, that you already have. The body holds the answers. You just have to be able to stop and listen for a second, because it will tell you what it needs. You can download that on my website at drbrooksheehan.com, and that's Brook without an E, so DRBROOKSHEEHAN.com. And all my social media links are there too. So thank you again. Really appreciate being here.
You are so welcome. Thank you, Dr. Brook. Dr. Ann, go ahead and take us out.
Okay, thank you so much, Sharifa. This is incredible, first of all. This panel that we have had here today has been so nice. Isn't it fun to talk with other entrepreneurs? So I would give the same advice that Lee J did, because we can all learn from each other. And Brenda, she mentioned being a lifelong learner. Always be open in your heart, right? That's the open in core. And when you're open in your heart, you're open to receive the miracles and the magic that come from other people when we have these kind of conversations. You're not like comparing yourself to others, because that will always lead to distress. It'll lead to you maybe not stepping forward because you think you're not good enough, or it'll also lead to I'm great, and then you'll stumble and fall. Pride comes before a fall. And all these things are really truths. So if you follow the truth that's in your core, you cannot go wrong. You can do it. If you can dream it, you can do it. Brenda's example today was my favorite because she started doing this because it was heart and passion. And she's gotten to the point in her business where it's still heart and passion. And I love that. Like, yeah, there's been a hard, there's a learning curve. There's all of us have to climb a mountain, but we don't do it alone. We do it with a business coach. We do it with each other. We do it through conversations like this. So just stay in this kind of game and this mindset, and contact me at AnneArvizu.com, or just, I'm very social. You can link in with me and hear me on my podcast, the Corepreneur Podcast, because I have guests like you guys on my podcast. So you're all bait. I'll be in touch with you separately.
Well, I'm looking forward to that email. I would love to sit down and chat with you, also to add your podcast to my new podcast directory called Potterly. So I'm excited about that. And I also love, you said two of my favorite words. I caught it there and I was like, yeah, you're on the right path. Because I always tell people miracles and magic happen in the moment, and too often we're somewhere else instead of focus on being in the moment. So I want to thank you all for being guests on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. And I especially want to thank everyone who tuned in to watch this show live, as well as everyone who is watching it in the archives. I definitely appreciate your support, whether you caught the show live or whether you're watching it later, 2 years from now, 2 months from now, it doesn't matter. We still appreciate your support. But as always, please don't just watch the show. Please don't just share the show. I appreciate that, but please support our guests. Visit their websites. Their website links are in the Facebook post. Our guests are here this morning to help you, to share their information, their strategies, their tips with you. So please support them. Visit their websites, follow them on social media, reach out to them. And when you do, please let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. Now, if you're interested in more ways that I can help your business, or maybe you want to be a guest on the Roundtable Talk Show, please visit my website at AskSharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.